Hey guys, let's talk about last night's episode of Chicago Fire, and it was so good. I'm so glad Bowden didn't quit. I'm so glad that he's ready to fight and take Gail and her people down. I loved it, and there was so much like drama, and I actually thought Bowden was gonna die. I mean, it was that crazy in last night's episode. The tanker exploded, and there was a train crash, and there was hundreds of people injured, and it was just so good. There were so many people involved, and it was wonderful. And we got to see Dawson and Shay interacting, and Shay is really going through some difficulty, and I'm glad that they're addressing this PTSD that she had after witnessing a gentleman shoot himself a few episodes back. And sometimes in these shows, something dramatic like this happens and everybody just kind of goes on with their lives, and it's like, hello, like that is quite traumatic, even if you are a paramedic. And so I'm liking that we're showing this kind of downward spiral that Shay's on. She was out partying one night, and now she's hooking up with some girl who we all know is not good for her. When she's at this crash site and she's dealing with all these casualties, she's really having a hard time. And even Severide goes up to her and says, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "No, I'm not." And it's nice to see that he's there to support her. But yeah, she's going to need some serious attention paid to her because she is going down a really scary path right now. And we also had some really heartbreaking scenes with Casey. And I knew this day was going to come when I believe her name's Heather was going to get out of prison and he was going to have to say goodbye to those boys. And today was that day. And it was heartbreaking to watch. And, seeing him planning a weekend getaway with the boys and then having to send them away was really heartbreaking, because we know that in Casey's journey on this show, he wanted to have a child with his girlfriend, and she didn't want it, and she wasn't ready. And to see him bond so well and so quickly with these boys, and then to see them ripped away from him again, was heartbreaking. The only positive side of this is I'm hoping that this is going to give the opportunity for Dawson and Casey to finally go down that road together. They're both single, they're both available, and there's nothing standing in their way at this point. And this has been sort of that relationship that we've been watching since season 1, and I can't wait for it to actually blossom now and head down that road where they can ultimately be together. So that was wonderful to see. And then we had some crazy revelations from Benny, that he has a daughter who's 21, and Severide meets her for the first time. I mean, hello, Benny, you've got kids like all over the United States. Time to go take care of them and leave 51 alone. And that's exactly what he's going to do. I mean, I hope that's not the end of Benny. And it felt kind of sudden that all of a sudden he was just going to go, whoop. He wasn't even going to be the lieutenant and he was just going to take off. So it was kind of weird that we spent, episodes building up to this and then he's just going to walk away. So that kind of felt a bit weird. But, at the end of the day, we all want Bowden to stay. I definitely wanted Bowden to stay, so I'm glad he is. And then we had a couple of really great scenes between Bowden and Mills. And we all know that Mills has had some issues with Bowden once he found out that he had a relationship with his mom. Well, basically they had an affair. And, Mills had been holding a grudge against Bowden this entire time. And one of the reasons why he tried out for to go to Chicago PD was because he was mad and not because he didn't get onto squad. And so they have a really great scene with just the two of them after the building has collapsed on them pretty much. And they're trapped and they bond. And it's almost like a father-son bonding moment. And it's a really great scene to see. And it's nice that we could close that chapter on Mills' animosity towards Bowden, because Bowden has always been there for him. He steps in and he takes his responsibilities very seriously. And in the last episode or 2 episodes ago, we found out that Bowden could possibly have lung cancer from a fire that he had to deal with back in 1986, and there was a crazy amount of asbestos and they weren't wearing masks at the time. So it was kind of like, oh my gosh. So, he announces to everybody that he's going to retire, and he's really saying he's going to retire because he's also thinking he might have lung cancer, and everybody is shocked. And, at the end of the episode, when they come back from this horrific train crash and, they've done their best to save all these lives with minimal help because other fire crews were stuck somewhere else. And it was really another way to show how strained everybody is, and there's not enough resources to help when there's these huge fires like this. And they get back and they're all, still covered in soot and they're all just disheveled. And then Gail's standing there yeah, we here your paper for your exit interview. And everyone's just standing around what? This girl has the nerve to really approach him like this after this traumatic experience that they've all just been through. So when he actually stood up and said, I'm not going anywhere without a fight and I'm staying at 51, I was like, woot, holla, like, way to go, Boden. You tell him, you show him how it's done. So it was really awesome. And then the other thing I just wanted to touch on was we have the new character, and he's played by a guy, his name is Charlie, and he's a war vet. And maybe not war vet, but he has come back from the war, and you can tell that he's dealing with some issues himself, and he actually has some serious family issues going on, and I guess his wife left him when he got back, and she comes back in this episode pretty much saying that she wants him back, and he brushes her off at the beginning, and then at the end he goes to her, after this horrific day that they've just had, and so you can tell that they're going to try to work things out. But I like that we're starting to develop him as a character on the show, and he's new this season, but I'm assuming that he's going to play quite heavily into this season of Chicago Fire, which is cool. So a lot going on in this episode, and there was like some sad moments, there was some dramatic moments, like tankers were blowing up, and like there was like death was looming, but thankfully nobody died. Any of our major cast died, but again, it was a really great episode, really great episode of Chicago Fire, and I can't wait to see what happens next week. All right, guys, that's been my review. I'll see you later. Bye.